Hello, my dear friends. Today we will be discussing about the comprehensive intraoperative TEE examination with standard views. The transesophageal echocardiography is a powerful diagnostic and monitoring tool available in the intraoperative settings. This also can be used in the critical care units. If we look at the guidelines for performing comprehensive intraoperative TEE, the first published recommendations of the American Society of Echocardiography was in the year 1999, and in this year, the Society of Cardiovascular Anesthesiologists and American Society of Echocardiography published guidelines for performing comprehensive transesophageal echocardiography using multiplane techniques. This was necessary to have a consistency in training, reporting, archiving, and quality assurance. These recommendations comprised 20 standard views, and in 2013, the Indian Association of Cardiovascular Vascular and Thoracic Anesthesiologists included the 20 standard views and added 6 additional views and published it in the Annals of Cardiac Anesthesia, and these are diagrammatically represented here. And just after that, the American Society of Echocardiography revised the guidelines which were published in 1999, and they have added 8 additional views in addition to the 20 standard views which they have described in 1999. These comprehensive transesophageal examination views, 28 views, are diagrammatically represented here, and the indications for transesophageal echocardiography can be divided into general indications and specific procedural indications, and the general indications are listed here. This includes outpatient indications, intraoperative indications, indications in the catheterization lab, and indication in the critical care units. And the contraindications is an important aspect of this procedure. We need to look into the contraindications and avoid in these conditions. The absolute contraindications are perforated viscous, esophageal stricture, esophageal tumor, esophageal perforation or laceration, esophageal diverticulum, and active upper GI bleed. There are relative contraindications which are mentioned on the right side of the slide, which include coagulopathy and peptic ulcer disease. But in all of these, the decision to do a TEE will be taken after going through the risk benefit ratio, and in the expert hands, the TEE can be done without causing any damage. The insertion of TEE probe in an intubated patient is relatively simple. The important aspects are that there should be a mouth guard even if the patient is paralyzed because of the sharp teeth which may damage the probe as it is being advanced or withdrawn. Use of mouth guard is mandatory, and liberal use of jelly is necessary for lubrication. And if there is a force, resistance encountered, the force should not be used to be able to pass the probe into the esophagus and then into the stomach. Typically, the terminology used when the probe is inserted or handled is the advancement when it is pushed into the esophagus or into the stomach, withdraw is when it is pulled out, and then antiflex when the tip of the probe is bent forward, retroflex when the tip of the probe is bent backwards, flexion to the right and left depending when you are turning the probe as a whole to the right or left, and rotation forward and backward depending upon the change of the multiplane angle. The multiplane angle varies from 0 degrees to 120 degrees, and when you vary this angle by pressing the small buttons on the handle of the echocardiographic probe, you can get various multiplane images in the single transducer position. There are basically 3 or 4 windows through which we look at the heart using transesophageal echocardiography. These windows are the upper esophageal window, mid-esophageal window, and the transgastric and the deep transgastric windows. The upper esophageal window typically is obtained at a distance of 20 centimeters from the lip level, whereas mid-esophageal window is obtained at a level of about 30 to 35 centimeters. Transgastric windows are obtained at about 40 to 45, and deep transgastric is obtained at about 45 to 50 centimeters. And this it depends upon the height of the individual in whom we are using the TE probe, and typically we do not go by the depth of insertion of the probe into the patient's body, but by the images which we obtain at a particular point. That is more important than the distance from the lip level. These pictures are put here because some of the views which we look at are described in relation to these images just for understanding purposes. The first one is the Mercedes-Benz sign describing the aortic valve. This is the aortic valve, looks like this, and you have the seagull. This is the mitral valve, which is described like a seagull in the commissural view, and the smoke in the left atrium in a patient with mitral stenosis is because of stasis of blood in the left atrium in patients who have severe mitral stenosis. Similarly, fish mouth appearance to describe the mitral valve in cross section, and inverted trouser sign to describe the branching of the main pulmonary artery. This is just for understanding purposes, and we will rapidly go through some of the common standard views which are used. This is the typical 4-chamber view in the mid-esophageal window. So you see the left atrium, right ventricle, and the left ventricle, interatrial septum, interventricular septum, the tricuspid valve on the left side of the screen, and the mitral valve on the tricuspid valve on the left side of the screen, and the mitral valve on the right side of the screen. Typically in this view, you see the anterior leaflet of the mitral valve to the left and the posterior mitral valve to the right. And in a typical 4-chamber view, you see the A2 segment of the anterior mitral leaflet and the P2 segment of the posterior mitral leaflet. This view is important to look at the valvular morphology, and with color Doppler you can also look at the regurgitation, etc. In this picture you are seeing on the left side patient with severe mitral stenosis. The posterior mitral leaflet is fixed, the anterior mitral leaflet is moving a little bit, but it's impaired, its mobility is also impaired, and there is smoke formation in the left atrium because of the stasis of blood, and the right ventricle is larger than the left ventricle, which means that right ventricle is dilated, and the right atrial pressure is increased because of the interatrial septum is bulging towards the left. These are some of the things which we can infer. You can see the mitral valve is thickened, which should not be more than 1 to 4 millimeters in thickness, and the tips of the leaflets, especially the posterior mitral leaflet, appear to be calcified. The second picture on the right side shows a patient with a mass in the left atrium, and this is visualized in the mid-esophageal 4-chamber view. If you turn the multiplane angle from 0 degrees to about 40 to 60, we get the mid-esophageal commissural view, mitral commissural view, where you see the P3 segment of the mitral leaflet on the left side and P1 segment of the mitral leaflet on the right side, and in between we see the anterior leaflet, the A2 segment, which looks like the seagull with the two wings spread apart, the P3 and P1 on either side, and the A2 segment in between. The next view is when you turn the probe to about 90 degrees in the same position, you get the mid-esophageal two-chamber view. So here we see the left atrium and the left ventricle, and the mitral valve is seen, the P3 segment on the left side, and most of the anterior leaflet on the right hand side. This is the view where we also look at the left atrial appendage, especially in patients who have mitral valve disease, to look for the thrombus in the left atrial appendage, and also with slight withdrawal of the probe, we will be able to look at the left upper lobe pulmonary vein. When we put a pulse wave Doppler through that, the pulmonary venous flow patterns can be discerned, which is important in evaluation of diastolic function as well as mitral regurgitation. The next view is the left ventricular long axis view in the mid-esophageal window, that is obtained by turning the probe multiplane angle to about 120 to 140 degrees. Here we see the left atrium, the left ventricle, the interatrial septum, the aortic valve, the root of aorta, and the portion of the right ventricle, and if in some cases you can see the pulmonary valve in this view. This view is very important to measure the annulus of the aortic valve and the mitral valve, and the continuous wave Doppler can be put on the mitral leaflets at the tips of the mitral leaflets to obtain the pressure gradient in patients who have stenotic lesion. This is a mid-esophageal long axis view showing a left atrial myxoma prolapsing into the left ventricle during diastolic phase of the cardiac cycle. The next view we are going to see is the aortic valve short axis view in the mid-esophageal window by changing the multiplane angle to about 40 degrees and slight withdrawal of the probe. The aortic valve can be seen in the center as almost a symmetrical structure, which is of the shape of the inverted the Mercedes-Benz sign. Here we have the left coronary cusp and left coronary artery arising from the left coronary cusp also can be visualized by slight withdrawal of the probe, and the right coronary cusp at the bottom, and the non-coronary cusp which is in relation to the interatrial septum. This will be the left atrium, this will be the right atrium, this is the tricuspid valve, this is the right ventricular body, and the pulmonary artery and pulmonary valve is seen onto the right side of the screen. Next picture is that of a aortic long axis view in the mid-esophageal window. This is obtained by turning the multiplane angle to about 120 degrees at the same place as the aortic valve short axis view. Here the concentration is on the aortic valve and the proximal ascending aorta. The two leaflets of the aortic valve is seen. The bottom leaflet is the right coronary cusp. The other one is either the left coronary cusp or the non-coronary cusp, which cannot be said for certain unless you use some other technique to identify the cusp. And you have the mitral valve, interventricular septum, and bit of right ventricle seen in this view. Next view is the bicaval view. It's again obtained in the mid-esophageal window by turning the omniplane to about 100 to 110 degrees centigrade and turning the probe to the right of the patient. By doing so, we look at the left atrium in the near field, right atrium, and interatrial septum in between the left and right atria, and the superior vena cava on the right side, and the inferior vena cava on the left side. This view is useful in looking at the interatrial septum and also looking for atrial septal defects or the PFOs, and this view is useful in cannulation of the inferior or superior vena cava during cardiac surgery, and also by doing the contrast, saline contrast, if there is any breach in the interatrial septum, we will be able to make out by doing the bubble test. For this, you have to inflate the chest if the patient is intubated to about 30 centimeters of airway pressure, and as you are releasing the pressure, you have to inject the saline, agitated saline into the central venous or any of the peripheral veins rapidly. And if the air bubbles or the contrast appears on the left side within the first 3 cycles, it means that there is a interatrial communication. The next view shown is the ascending aortic short axis view. The ascending aortic cross sectional view is seen here. This is the main pulmonary artery divided into the right and left pulmonary arteries, and in this case you can also see the pulmonary artery catheter moving along with the heart's contractions. So this looks like a inverted trouser, and sometimes this is described as inverted trouser sign. The next view is that we are going to enter the stomach. The probe is kept in the neutral position. You advance the probe into the stomach and then acutely antiflex. This is the basal short axis view in the transgastric window, and the structure seen is the mitral valve here, the anterior leaflet onto the left and the posterior leaflet onto the right, and you can see the basal segment of the left ventricle in this view. This opening of the mitral valve resembles that of a fish mouth and sometimes described as fish mouth. At the same window, if you increase the angle to about 110 to 120, we get the transgastric long axis view. This angle is increased to about 120 degrees to get the long axis view. This is the mid-papillary transgastric view of the left ventricle. We see all the segments in the mid section of the left ventricle, and the posteromedial papillary muscle and the anterolateral papillary muscle. And this transgastric short axis view is extremely useful both in the operating rooms and the intensive care units to diagnose the cause for hypovolemia, diagnose the cause for hypotension. It could be hypovolemia or impaired contractility, and this can be usually visualized, and any segmental wall motion abnormalities in the mid segments can be seen in this view. This is the mid-esophageal, transgastric long axis view, where we see the mitral valve and the aortic valve, and this view we can do the Doppler assessment of the aortic valve because the Doppler beam is parallel to the flow of blood. In patients who have aortic stenosis, the gradient across the aortic valve can be determined in this view. Next view is the transgastric, deep transgastric long axis view. The probe is further advanced, and then the probe is acutely antiflexed, and the heart is looked at from the apex, and the apex is at the near field, and we have the left atrium, left ventricle, mitral valve, left ventral outflow tract, the aortic valve, the proximal ascending aorta, interventricular septum seen in this picture. So, this view is extremely useful in the assessment, Doppler assessment of the aortic valve, because of the fact that the Doppler beam is parallel to the flow of blood. Then in patients who have mitral valve disease, the mitral valve can be looked at using the mid-esophageal views and the transgastric views. The three mid-esophageal views are the four mid-esophageal which are used for mitral valve assessment are the mid-esophageal 4-chamber, commissural view, 2-chamber view, and the long axis view, and the transgastric view which is used to look at the mitral valve is the transgastric basal short axis view and the transgastric long axis view at 120 degrees. As we discussed already, in the 4-chamber view, typically we see the A2 segment on the left and P2 segment on the right, and in the commissural view we see the P3 segment, P1 segment on either side with A2 segment in the middle, and in the 2-chamber view we see the P3 segment on the left and most of the anterior segment on the right. In the long axis view, in the mid-esophageal view window, left ventricular long axis view, we see the A2 segment on the right and P2 segment on the left. This is small information about the 3-dimensional transesophageal echocardiography imaging acquisition steps for the mitral valve. First step is to use the biplane views to check the mitral valve annulus centered within the acquisition imaging plane, and then rotate to the left atrial en-face view, and standard mitral valve view from the left atrial appendage can be visualized as is shown in this picture. This diagram shows the en-face view of the mitral valve, depicting surgical surgeon's perspective, and here the aortic valve is at the 12 o'clock position and this is the mitral valve. In contrast to the T image, the anterior mitral valve is the upper leaflet in this view, whereas the posterior mitral leaflet is the lower leaflet in this view. To conclude this presentation, the transesophageal echocardiography is extremely useful for intraoperative monitoring and diagnosis of new findings and assessment of preload, measuring of intracardiac pressures, measuring cardiac output, and looking at the myocardium, especially with the point of view of ischemia, whether the intracardiac air is present, and the diagnosis and management of intracardiac masses. With this, I would like to invite you for this workshop which is being held at Narayana Hrudayalaya in the month of August. The dates are 26th to 30th. Please join us, and thank you so much. And if there are any questions regarding this presentation, please feel free to contact, and we will be addressing those questions whenever you forward them to us. Thank you so much.